as you tell us, why, how a leader of a country, once that leader commits himself or herself to get out of this situation, face a problem, sanctions, and other problems. I was actually retrieving from my mind what happened in Ethiopia for the past one. It all happened in front of our eyes. And so I think maybe it's better to take that case to understand the minute that the prime minister said we want to be independent. For example, we want to self-sustain in feeding ourselves, to self-sustain ourselves, to grow wheat and not to import. And a lot of that money that comes from these international organizations is actually, it's not for free. They are bringing those foods. So it would be nice if in terms of figures, if you can give us perspectives and what happens also in the country. Are we not growing wheat? Aren't our farmers growing sorghum or whatever they are importing? What will happen to what we are producing the minute they start to import that as a charity? And also together, it will be good if you can tell us your experience. I read this from your post that you, back, I think 3 years ago, you happened to visit an IDP, specifically in the northern part of Ethiopia, and where what they wanted you to produce as a report and what you have observed wasn't the same. So as a result, there was something that made, that resulted, that's related to your relocation. So if you are comfortable to tell us about that, it will help us a lot to understand what's going on.
Just to say, anybody who knows me, I'm non-political. I'm typically I'm non-partisan. I don't get involved in politics at all. I look at the quality of a leader and then look at the country, how it's processed. So while I was serving in Ethiopia, which was indeed a very meaningful work to me, I was very impressed by the country, because I came when you had the possibility of El Nino drought was looming, and there was concerns, in terms of the impact on food, nutrition, and all. And when we arrived in Ethiopia, we found out that the government had good systems in place that allowed us to mitigate the worst case scenario. Ethiopia was able to survive that very well. Another issue that came up was a political transition, which we witnessed as well. Well, as a humanitarian worker, we stay away from it. But I did observe, I'm speaking personally in this interview, not as the UN staff. Also, I did observe a very smooth transition. Because there was speculation, expectation, no. And in it all emerged, perhaps one of the world's best leaders. That's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. I say that openly, because I saw him, and if you ask me, I don't actually know the difference between political parties in Ethiopia. I never got those names, but I saw him emerge and take certain actions that I thought was moving towards peace. I thought could be emulated elsewhere. A smooth transition, inviting the exile back home, ensuring forgiveness, releasing those in prison, pushing forward a message of harmony, forgiveness, and strengthening regional harmony by conceding the land to Eritrea. I just thought his cabinet, 50% of his cabinet women, he appointed a president woman, and really enthusiastic. He was looking into building Africa unity. He has that approach. Just charismatic, dynamic. I was cheering. I said, this is what we need for Africa. I said, Abiy Ahmed is not just the prime minister for Ethiopia. He is Africa's. He's our own. He's made us proud. He made me so proud to be an African, seeing how well that man worked. And I won't lie, the notion, I've always felt that there were some predictable long-term issues like drought in Ethiopia that required long-term solution. I saw it. But there were many stories of, my role in Ethiopia was working to develop communication, to raise awareness for crisis. And my approach has always been Crisis should not be wasted. Every crisis should build national character. And that's what happens in the West. Where you hear a major disaster, they speak to themselves, we will rise above this, we will rise above this. But in the case of Africa, it's like even before it happens, there's speculation that it might happen. And in this one case, there was lots of speculation through the political transition. There's some conflict here, some conflict there. We have an IDP crisis. IDP crisis. And as a communication person, Choice designed it. I said, I don't see anything. It would be hard for me to say a country is falling apart, with IDPs when I'm in a hot spring, I'm having fun. I said, it's hard for me to develop that kind of message of saying catastrophic humanitarian disaster emerging. I said, no, I said, okay, let me go capture the pictures of these IDPs. So I went on mission to Mekelle. The first place I was taken to was a school. I went in the newly built school, really nice. I counted there were about 48 people. And basically, I spoke to them. They said, sorry, we don't need food aid. We just need money to be resettled from here. I said, sure, we went with 3 huge vans. I said, if we land cruisers, I said, if we sold 2, we'll be able to help these 48 people. I was arguing. I said, somebody wanted to say, let's send key messages of how horrible. I said, no, the kids here look healthier than your children. I'm not going to exaggerate what I've not seen. They said, there's another one not far away. I went, about 98 people. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any compelling image, any photograph to make a case regarding some huge crisis that is, so I came back, I was told, well, we're already sending that message out, so we have to. I said, but we can always say that there's not that much crisis. There are displaced people. Cash transfer can help. There are ways we can help them. But we don't want to send a message that is not true. That's not what the UN is all about. That's not what the UN stands for. The UN says international humanitarian assistance is based on need, evidence-based. Evidence means seeing it. Too many people call it evidence. They are speculating. They are guessing that if 2 people displaced, then there are more. I'll give you another example. This is Ethiopia too. There was supposed to be a huge malnutrition crisis happening in somewhere in Mali region. Malnutrition, children, under 5 malnourished. So we went to a hospital to see them. I saw a mother with 1 child and another man who had the ankle. And one of the donors said, oh, I've seen really horrible things, so I would give some money. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what did you see? It's some of it right now. There are not enough visuals to back some of the things we see, and that's what we want to put. Show us. Let's see, where these things are. Because I've been on the field, I've gone around, and I say it very confidently. Without the negative picture that is poured on Africa, we can go to these places on vacation. We can go on vacation and have the best, but that's not going to happen. Because how can it happen? Because if you think you think Mekelle or somewhere has some huge crisis, nobody will go there. And you know what was so funny? When we went on the mission to find IDPs in Mekelle, a stadium was being commissioned by the Prime Minister at the same time, in the same town. I mean, you see what I mean? So these are 2 stories competing here.
Yeah.
So I'm supposed to say this is huge crisis. Oh, IDP crisis is for the Ethiopia is falling apart in a town that was commissioning a stadium. I mean, it's yeah, that's my experience.
It's yeah, very.
So, and I keep on giving the message. I keep on repeating it. The UN is what we make it, and the huge part of the responsibility falls on us Africans who work in the system, who work in the UN. We have a responsibility. Too often, some of us just enjoy the perks, go with the flow, and do what we know is not right. We are living in a country. I come from a village. And there are sometimes we've gone on mission. I said, this is not a disaster zone. This is a village. When I was young, my parents would take me to my village on the holidays. They were mud houses. Which are now environmentally better for the world right now. There were the streams. And I had big hair. I was skinny. And I bet if at any of those, assessment mission has driven by, taking a photo of me, I would have been called. Basically, they could use me to respond. Because it's a view, the point of view, how we look at things. So we Africans who work in that system, we know. So when I go to some of these places, I said, no, this is a healthy, no, you can't. tell us all, we are not just tools for you to raise funds for your institutional survival. It's almost like Africa is a ready zone for anybody to come. Just pick anywhere and say there's a problem here, and you can raise funds in your own place and start a career. So yes, God leaders have said situations are exaggerated. Yes, and I said it to those countries who appeal. We will talk bad about your countries. We have to raise. We are not going to say. We have to raise funds. Man. How am I going to raise funds when you have agreed to beg? Through the year, we say how horrible things are for you, how miserable you are, how incapable you are. So let's raise funds and bring to your country and bring capable people to help you solve your problem. And what is that problem really? That's the question we have to ask. These countries that have gone to beg for international humanitarian aid, what exactly is it they're asking for to be done? Because they are development funding as well. There's development funding. There are other funds that are given. So what exactly is this extra one? What is it going to do? And I'm not asking this to say let's not support countries who have crisis. I believe we should. I believe, as I would love to go to Colorado and be sent as an international staff to help in the wildfires raging there. I would love to. I would love to do a peace program to address the gun violence in the United States. I would love to. So let's all work for each other, not to turn it all. This is the way the Africa now is present in the global arena as a charity domain, as a domain of charity, and we take it. It happened before, but it was not as organized as it is right now. It is expanding every year. The UN intended international humanitarian presence as something to build the capacity of the country to address their own their situation long term. It wasn't intended as a long term presence. It wasn't intended to provide social services. There are other elements that do that. But international humanitarian presence is expanding too wildly and widely across Africa.